Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday live stream. And the question really just comes down to, like the title and the thumbnail talk about, is why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin. And it really comes down to this. You have to ask yourself, and we're going to go over this real quick, is what asset out there is going to outperform Bitcoin over the next 4 to 5 years? I need you to ask yourself that. I need you to really think about that. If I have extra funds laying around, or maybe the funds or money that I think I should invest into, I can't give you financial advice, just saying, but if I had that laying around, what would I put it into that could outperform Bitcoin as far as a risk versus reward? So think about that. Put that in the comment section. And if you're live right here, welcome. If you're not live and you're watching this recording, I'd like you to put that in the comments section below so everybody can read it. And I had actually asked this question to one of the AI components, which would be Grok. I said, I think there's some things that could do it, but I just want to get a full picture of what it is. And this is what Grok spit out, as a matter of fact. I asked a very simple question. What asset can outperform or likely to outperform Bitcoin over the next 5 years? And it gave me really 3 answers. And it made a lot of sense. So I'm going to share that with you today, and we're going to go over each one of those. So the first one is real estate in high growth areas. Now, as you know, on this channel, I dabble into real estate here and there, and it's been really good for us. And I can tell you that it's a great opportunity, depending, and it says right here, in high growth areas. But in some places, say like in Florida, parts of the Midwest, and especially the West Coast, you can see that the actual returns are actually quite low. And it just depends on your timing. And it is quite a financial burden if you get it wrong. So historically, U.S. real estate averages 3 to 5% annual growth. Let that sink in. 3 to 5% annual growth. Now, there are some other advantages. We've talked about this before. I'm actually going to start to bring in people which are going to talk about real estate to the channel. That's much later. But as far as like outperforming, it's not happening. And because it states bright prime spots can hit double digits. However, Bitcoin's annualized return since 2015 hovers around 100%. So it'd need to slow down a bit for this to win. So that's real estate. That made a lot of sense. I go, okay, well, real estate does pretty well, but as far as like outperforming, why wouldn't I do Bitcoin? What about stocks? And not just stocks, not like indices or S&P 500 or NASDAQ, stuff like that. But if we take a look as far as like stocks in individual stocks, which is a little much harder to do, you can outperform Bitcoin. And it states here, NVIDIA or Tesla can post some pretty crazy gains, and they can go up massively depending on when you actually get in. But the S&P 500 average only 7 to 10% yearly. So again, if you're looking to outperform Bitcoin, risk versus reward, as far as like indices, it's not going to happen. But what about gold or rare earth type of things? And that can do pretty well too. And it's something that's actually been a pretty good risk versus reward play. And of course, if you want to de-risk, this is a play to go. I do this as well, gold and silver. And it is less volatile than Bitcoin, averages 5 to 10% in good years. And again, that's saying in good years. Now, if you're a gold or silver bug, you can tell me exactly what the returns are. Gold's done pretty well. Silver's kind of lagging, I understand. But there's also rare earth type of sentiment tied to each demand and risky, but could explode if supply chains tighten. And lastly, private equity or venture capital in early stage tech. Now, this one can really outperform. And if you are privy to that and you are an accredited investor, sure, go for it. But I will tell you, there's an old joke, and it says, how can you become a billionaire in early stage tech? And it's very simple. Or excuse me, how can you become a millionaire? And it's very simple. You start out as a billionaire and then invest into that. And those are the most risky things. So you have to ask yourself, over all these things that we just talked about, why wouldn't I invest into Bitcoin? It's a question that I've asked myself quite a lot since 2017. And the answer is it's very tough to outperform it, but we get lost in the minutia and the noise, especially with this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And before you know it, you're like, well, maybe it won't go in the direction I think it is. But every single time we're proven wrong. So that's what we have. But there's also factors to take a look at, because people can say, but Rob, I mean, in the long term, sure, but in the short term, where are we at? I think in the short term, it comes down to this. It comes down to what the markets are doing, and that's in TradFi as well. The macro, that's kind of hovering around us, and government itself. So when I think about markets, something pretty incredible happened yesterday. which was, and I think everybody's been talking about this, is the somewhat, and it is a decoupling. Bitcoin finally decoupled from one of the worst days in the S&P 500, or for the US stock market in general, I should say. And this is, I think this was the 5th or 4th largest downfall of the stock market that's been going on in its entire history. The 5th largest time, and we actually added a little bit to the crypto market. We can see here XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, and Cardano up, which is great. However, there are some people, this is from Whale Panda, and he says, hey, we managed to keep Bitcoin up during the most volatile days of the last couple of years in the stock market, and then dump during the weekend on low liquidity. We only know what really is going on when the US market opens on Monday, though. And it's amazing to me because, like, do people really realize this? $3.25 trillion was wiped out. That is more than our entire market cap that we have for crypto. I mean, we're looking at 2.7 trillion. And if they're talking about this as a major downfall, I just don't really get it. I mean, over 7 days, actually, I don't even want to look at that. 24 hours, I mean, the last 24 hours as of yesterday around noon, we were at 83,099. Today we're at 82,669. Take a look at these numbers, or take a look at these numbers right here. That's a massive, massive downfall. So, and I take a look at this, I'm like, man, maybe this is the time when we pivot. Now, tomorrow could be different. Sunday could dump like crazy. Monday, when the markets open up, they could dump like crazy. But there is one market that is open up 24/7, 365, and completely accessible. And that is crypto and digital assets. So if people took a massive hit yesterday, which they did, you would think that they would start to sell off their crypto right now. And they're not. They're not. Now they could do this tomorrow. Maybe they're just waiting like, oh, you know, I'll get my 3.2 trillion back at some point. And over the last 24 hours, we're down a whopping 0.5%. But it's an amazing thing how it actually held up, because this would not have happened years ago. And here we are. And then as a reminder, as far as like the markets and such, I put this out yesterday and I said, guys, it's over. The tariffs are going to take everything to zero. The market can't recover. And there's too many smart people are saying that this is it. Depression is incoming. It was a good run. And of course, this is sarcasm. And I just took a couple of the most interesting news headlines I could find for the last big black swan event. Not just tariff. The last black swan event was coronavirus. And we saw Bitcoin go from almost 10K to lose 50% of its value in roughly 48 hours or so. And then, of course, what happened after that? Well, we went right back up. And we'd still get all these different wacky headlines and people calling for Great Depressions. I remember this one, pandemic to trigger the Great Depression 2.0, no recovery for a decade. And if you hear the same sentiment, it's the same thing that are coming out of people's mouths right now because of tariffs. COVID crash, oil's going to zero, stocks to zero, apocalypse now, Wall Street's end, virus to bankrupt every company by Christmas. And that didn't happen. Of course, people say, but Rob, you don't understand, because you know the Fed came in and there was quantitative easing and they let go of the quantitative tightening and it all worked like that. That's true. That's exactly what happened. Do we need that to happen again? Liquidity is great, but is liquidity happening right now as far as with quantitative easing? Not so much as in the American supply. M2 global supply, sure, a little bit. Quantitative tightening is still happening, although albeit it is slowing down. So I can say, like, well, if that's going to happen, are we still going to hit this recession or this depression like everybody talks about, like was supposed to happen last time? Or do we pass over it and maybe get something mild? Time will tell. But I have to ask you this. What asset can you get into right now that will outperform Bitcoin to keep you afloat? That's the basic question. So that was our first part as far as the markets. Let's take a look at what could happen with the macro. Macro is actually looking not too bad. Even though we thought that we'd have, like, this is the worst thing of all time and tariff's going to sink everything. And it wasn't too awful. I mean, we can see that U.S. employment report, this would be non-farm payrolls. What it was last time was 151,000. What we got, what was the expectation was it to go lower. at 140,000. And actually, I think they revised this actually. But as far as the employment report, I mean, 228,000. That's way better than we thought it was. Now, it is true that the unemployment rate has ticked up from 4.1% to 4.2%, so a 0.1% increase in unemployment rates. However, if we take a look at what happened on Thursday, initial jobless claims, we went from 225,000, which was last month. We were supposed to go up to 228,000, people saying, hey, I lost my job, gonna have unemployment hit me. And it went down to 219,000. So there we are. And then on top of that, don't forget, as far as like with the inflation rate and things which is everybody's freaking out about, you can take a look at it two ways. Now here we've got just basic CPI, and this is month over month. Now this is not what the Fed looks at. They look at mostly core CPI year over year, but month over month, we can see that actually September, October, November, December, January, it grew from 2.4 to 3, and now it's come down to 2.8. And if we take a look at core CPI year over year, we can see it actually going down a little bit. And actually, let me pull some things up. Here's the year over year percentage change. If we take a look here, month over month, not too bad. And we take a look here, I think we just take a look at this. This is non-core again. So even though we're not at the Fed's rate of what they want, which is 2%, I think we're trending somewhat in the right direction, and we'll see what Jerome Powell does. But then the obvious question then is this: what if we get that recession? What if we get that depression? Well, like we've talked about many a time, there's really two things you can think to yourself here. Should I just pull out and hoard cash like, say, Warren Buffett does, which I think he's got over $370 billion just sitting on the sidelines? Or would it be something prudent to get into an opportunity, whatever that is, whether that be real estate, whether that be equities, whether that be some kind of private venture, or whether that be Bitcoin? If a recession does come, as a reminder, the economy is not the market, and the market is not the economy. And over time, you can going back all the way to 1954, the average, depending on how we look at this, is 10 months. Now, the Great Recession took 18. And then going backwards to coronavirus, the last black swan, it was only 2. But we can see over here, as far as like recession timeframes, 6, 8, 8, this is 58, 91, 2001, 54, 61, 49. 75, 82, and 2009 were a little bit different, a little bit longer. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, if this is the truth, then how does that look? If we come over here, the recession in the market bottom, this was back in 1990, took 3.5 months. And then it took just a little bit of 5 months or so for the economy to say, okay, recession's over. But the market recovered first. Same thing here in 2001, 6 and 2. And something happened over here in the Great Recession, where it took 15 and then 3. And then, of course, this would be the recession, one of the shortest recession on file for the coronavirus. So that would take care of the macro. So things are looking good, but we could still hit a recession. But again, the question is, how much time do you think that you could use to invest in something that would be an outperform Bitcoin? And the last one is government. And I got to tell you, Scott Bessent, and right now he's the Treasury Secretary, is quite impressive for what he's doing. And there was this quote that he had on Tucker Carlson, where he said that Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. And I really let that sink in, because people just kind of brushed over this. I mean, outside of people who are crypto investors or Bitcoin investors. But think about that. Really think about that. The Treasury Secretary says that, and he talks about gold as well, that Bitcoin is becoming a store of value, which would kind of fit in the agenda with the current administration of making Bitcoin, or America, the Bitcoin capital of the world. They want this to work. And beforehand, and people would say, well, this administration is destroying crypto. I have to differ. I think there's been so many tailwinds that the government has put onto it that things I think could do pretty well. But to actually break this down, I want you to listen to it because I don't want you just to hear it from me. This is Michael Sullivan's account. Looks like he's writing a Bitcoin novel. I have to check that out. Links in the description. You can follow Michael. But listen to exactly what Scott here says. And for a little bit of context, this is not just some goon that Trump picked off the floor. United States Secretary of 25. Before his government service, he was a partner at Soros Fund Management. Yeah, George Soros. Kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure that George Soros is a left-leaning type of guy, from what I understand. And here's Bessent working for him back in the day. Fund management, the founder of Key Square Group, global macro investment firm. Looks like Yale University. And I believe he was a professor of economics. So when people say that, Trump's a moron and he's an idiot, debatable, but he surrounds himself with some pretty smart people. And just listen to what he has to say in this clip on Bitcoin. Make sure you can actually hear this perfectly. Take a listen. This is about a minute or so.
So, it was unclear whether we were going to exempt gold from tariffs, which I believe we have. So there was a big move out of vaults in Switzerland, out of vaults in London to get it into New York. And look, that there are a lot of different stores of value over time. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been.
There you go. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been a store of value. I got to tip my hat to him. I mean, I've been around since 2017, and almost every government out there has really been very negative on Bitcoin and crypto. And finally, the United States has people in the administration who are saying this is becoming a store of value. Again, ask yourself the question, what could potentially outperform the asset that is Bitcoin? And then lastly, I know people are kind of concerned about tariffs. I can definitely see that. But there was this response, and I'm going to share with you the entire clip. This is about 12 minutes or so, but I'm just going to play just a minute and 15 seconds of it when he talks about tariffs and what should be done. So I linked this entire clip. I think you should watch it to give some context into where tariffs are going and why it could be a big boom and why they're being careful. Again, this is, I could say, Scott's a pretty smart guy. Take a listen to this.
And if countries retaliate, which some have said that they would, some have said they wanted to wait and see, what is the White House's response going to be to those countries?
Well, Caitlin, one of the messages that I'd like to get out tonight is everybody sit back, take a deep breath, don't immediately retaliate. Let's see where this goes, because if you retaliate, that's how we get escalation.
And then it becomes a full-fledged trade war, in your view?
Not a trade war, depends on the country, but remember that the history of trade is we are the deficit country. The deficit country has an advantage. They are the surplus countries. The surplus countries traditionally always lose any kind of a trade escalation. So I did, as a student of economic history or a professor of economic history, I advise against it.
So you're essentially saying that they should not retaliate?
I would say that doing anything rash would be unwise.
Pretty good. So again, watch that entire clip and you'll see kind of where things are going. But it really made me think to myself, all right, this could actually work pretty well. And then lastly, before we go to the last section, get the Q&A, I want to clear up something. Some people are saying, hey, wasn't Scott just talking about alts when he was talking about gold? He was talking about alternative investments, not talking about altcoins. So I know everybody got their hopes up there, but sorry, it's just alternative investments. And lastly, I don't know what happened yesterday, but we were talking about taxes, which are coming up. And this could be everywhere, entire world, but the United States, you've got roughly 9 days left to file your taxes. And we had David Kemmer from CoinLedger, and he came on to talk about this is the 5 things you really got to know about as far as to file your taxes. And not many people were very looking forward to the tax video. I think it was like one of my worst performing videos of all time. And I think it's just because people are like, I don't care about taxes. Well, you should. And it's kind of important. Just get it out the way. I'm going to make it super easy for you. CoinLedger I've been using this for 4 years now. It's super simple. From the time that I opened it up to file the taxes, took me 30 minutes. And if you're not into that, at the very minimum, just use them for a portfolio tracker. This is not my portfolio. They set up a dummy one, but you can put your information in and it'll read your public address wallets, not your private keys, your public address wallets. And it'll tell you like, hey, look, you've bought this much Bitcoin or this much Solana or this much whatever. And here's your unrealized returns. Here's your losses. Here's, potentially if you want to sell, take profits or do tax loss harvesting. That's that part. So that's a portfolio tracker, which is free. At least use that. But if you're looking for help with taxes, of course, go over to CoinLedger. They can put everything in. And they even have CPAs and lawyers that you can talk to. Just hook up with them. And that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. We talk about it's time sensitive. Now, I'll do a little Q&A. I'll answer all your questions, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's get into it. What do we have today? Name here, CoinLedger is legit. It is, and it saves me a lot of heartache and brain power because I'm not a big fan of taxes. I'm not a big fan of filling the forms out, but thankfully the program itself is pretty damn easy. So I like that. Lax says Bitcoin. This is Lax's portfolio. Bitcoin, Solana, MicroStrategy, NVIDIA, Tesla. Yeah, it's pretty good. MicroStrategy is looking good. NVIDIA is looking pretty good as the AI race heats up. I think they're going to need a lot of the GPUs that are being put out. And Tesla, even though it's taken a major hits over time, I think it's still a great company doing great things. I know some people hate Elon Musk. Some people love Elon Musk, but you can't deny the company itself is pretty good. Unless you buy their car and somebody keys it for no good reason. Let's see. When will CoinLedger be able to track crypto loan transactions? They might be able to do that right now. Just reach out to those guys and do it. First of all, Scott, who'd you get a crypto loan from? How's that going for you? I got to tell you, I'll never do that again. But who's doing that? I'm curious. Let's see. Neil says, working out so far, I've locked in long-term cap gains to lower my tax obligation. Now we wait to see what this make or break point gives. Yeah, and that's another thing with CoinLedger or any taxes that you want to do, that you have to do. You can use those for losses. I don't know if you guys made a bunch of money or if you guys have lost funds, but if you had those losses to be used, why don't you use them in your tax returns? Get some more funds back. And that's it. Let's see. Jennifer says, if we collapse, you won't have a portfolio. I'm going to direct yourself to the first word that you used, which is if. And actually, I'll even expand on that. If we collapse, meaning the entire crypto sector craters because the traditional market is cratering, let's say the worst case scenario of all time. Let's say we go into a Great Depression like Jim Cramer just called for. Yeah, that's right. Jim Cramer. So take that as you will. Let's say the depression comes and Bitcoin goes to, gosh, I don't know. Let's say $1,000, $1,000. And it goes to $1,000 and everybody is freaking out, which will happen. You have to ask yourself, what fundamentally changed with Bitcoin? Was there a double spend? Was the core hacked? Was somebody able to actually get into and disrupt transactions? Were they able to turn back time and increase the max supply of Bitcoin from 21 to 42 million? None of that's going to change. All it's going to do, it's going to lower it to the amount of where 99% of people will probably flip out. Not you guys. And other people will say, that might be a pretty great opportunity. It's the same thing that what happens in the Great Recession. We had a friend in Texas, and when everything started to collapse, he did nothing but buy. He was going through foreclosures. He was going through just a ton of auctions, and he was buying. And when it got over, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 2011, 2012, he made out like a bandit because he had that capital on the side. So the thing you have to ask yourself is, do I have enough capital on the side to just buy things? I will ask you this, $1,000 Bitcoin or an 80,000 Bitcoin, a $2 Solana or a, whatever the price is today, a $2 Ethereum or an $1,800 Ethereum. And do you think it'll ever go up again? And lastly, I will say, if it does collapse, you don't lose anything unless you sell. So just keep that in mind. All right. Oh, I will say though that even during the pandemic, like I've been around for quite some time, even that time frame shook me. When I was looking, I was like, you know, if this becomes that virus that wipes out half the planet, which it was supposed to do, but it didn't, then that means that everything will collapse. So I was thinking to myself, is this a good time to buy Bitcoin? Now, I did buy a little bit, but I should have bought a hell of a lot more. And it really just comes down to, you know, where do you think we are in the short term versus the long term? Let's see. Mike Mads, what would change in your life right now if Bitcoin didn't exist? Not the same with gold. Well, first of all, nothing would change it. Honestly, nothing really changes, you know. And people say, you know, if I just had $1 million, things would change. It's not like the only thing that would change when you get money is that you don't have to drag yourself to a job that you hate. Or maybe it's a job you like to do, but you have the option now to say, I don't really want to go to work today. I don't want to work this year. And that's it. And then it gives the opportunity to live wherever you want to live because you have total freedom to do what you want to do. And that's it. And that doesn't matter if, you know, you are a 10,000-aire and you have that, or a 100,000-aire, or a millionaire or a billionaire. Nothing really truly changes as long as you have those things, which is why everybody talks about freedom. And that's what makes sense to me. So as far as like changing my life, it wouldn't change anything, quite honestly. But what would I invest into more heavily? It'd probably be more real estate. And probably, obviously, a lot more equities, a lot more stocks that I, you know, believe in, different companies. Sure. Let's see. Yes. I kind of like the between words, give your statement a dramatic range. Well, we try. Ian says, hey, Rob, how risky are the risk levels looking? I will take a look. And if you'd like to see what I'm seeing, this is on Ben's website. And it looks like this. But if you want to see the risk levels, you should probably sign up for it. And it's most of this stuff is free. I don't know if the risk levels are. It might be. I forget. But I can just tell you that the risk levels are just low enough for me to continue dollar cost averaging Bitcoin. Now, as far as like with Solana and Doge, wow, and Cardano and Chainlink and Toncoin, Stellar, Avalanche, Sui, Hedera. Yeah, those are crazy. Yeah, you should check that out. Let's see. Would also be interesting to see S&P 500 risk. Yeah, S&P 500 is not as risky, we would say. Let's see. Julie says, coronavirus, my favorite memories. My whole family quarantined in Georgia, cooking out and drinking every day. Sounds like a pretty good plan. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm still rocking 2015 MacBook Air. TNT Tesla is correct. I'm not sure about Bitcoin. I can't believe it hasn't tanked yet, but holding well. It was surprising to me too, because usually when the markets crash, we crash even harder. So like you just saw, Apple I think was down 7%, Meta was down 5%, and the S&P 500 overall, again, the 5th worst day. And usually when that happens, you see Bitcoin lose over 10%. You see altcoins lose 20, 30, 40% or more, but we actually added to it. So again, like I was sitting there just watching it yesterday, and I was like, first I was like, well, maybe I should do a video, but I was like, nah, I think people can figure this out. They don't need me to give them a bunch of hopium. Let's see how it all plays out. And then today I just was like, wow, this actually happened. That's pretty good. And you sit back and you look at all the things that are going on. You're like, this is looking like a pretty good day. But we'll see how the macro plays out. That's really what it comes down to. Again. Yeah, crazy resilient. Are there any mid or low caps, things we're looking at now? There's a couple of, like, if we're looking at, let's take a look here. First and foremost, I always like CoinGecko because they have these things called categories. Actually, and don't look at the top gainers and trending and stuff like that, because once they're up here, it's pretty much already, they're not going to keep pumping forever. So look at categories, and let's see, like World Liberty Financial Portfolio. That'd be something to look at. That would be Eric Trump, so the Trump's business and what they invest into as far as digital assets. They've had Ethereum, Tron, Chainlink, Avalanche, Ondo, which is also, I think, embraced by BlackRock, Mantle, Aave, and Movement, and Psy. So I would take a look at that. Also, this one called Made in USA. People are excited about that because, maybe they're going to reduce or eliminate taxes on, or capital gains taxes on, these types of American-made crypto companies. So XRP, Solana, Cardano, Chainlink, Stellar, those aren't, like you'd say, mid or low cappers. Near, all right. Trump coin, I'm going to pass. Caspa, Render. Also, I would put in here Render, which is an AI play. Aether, AETHIR. I think it's not a bad one. Movement again. I would take a look at Movement and Story. IP, that's a good one. WorldCoin, I'm not a big fan of scanning my retina, but whatever. Stacks and Bonk and Injective. That's pretty good. So yeah, something like that. Keith asks, Rob, was your move to Puerto Rico worth it? Yeah, it's awesome. This place is the best. I mean, look, I don't know if you guys follow me on X, but almost every day I'm posting videos of like just the beach because I live a couple blocks from it. That's my gym. So I get to go out there, do daily walks, do the calisthenic part, take a dip in the ocean if I want to, come back, chill, relax, maybe have some breakfast, put out a video, and do some other things for the real estate part. But yeah, pretty much it was 100% worth it. I'd like everybody else to come and check it out. Also, I'll be interviewing some real estate folks that are from here and the opportunities that present themselves. Not gentrification of Puerto Rico, but actually helping the island itself. It's like a synergistic help. There's a lot of things here that could do great. Just need a little guidance and liquidity. Let's see. Jonas says, I think we lost all the Bitcoin sellers, only holders up. I think not only that, but when you see more good news and things come out about the current administration supporting Bitcoin, I think things start to go up. The thing is, though, is that like this piece, we talked about, Scott Bessent, and he was talking about how, gold is a store of value and Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. You won't hear that in like the mainstream media. They're not going to cover that. That's not usually what they do. Maybe one will, but you'll see this on Twitter. You'll see it on X. You'll see it on, of course, all the crypto YouTube channels and things like that. But it's something that really should be exposed because, again, if people are looking for like, okay, I've got all this, I've got some money, or maybe I got a lot of money, or maybe I got a little bit of money, but I just hear about this thing called inflation. And where does inflation come from? Well, Elizabeth Warren told me that inflation comes from those greedy corporations just raising prices. And then if they do a little research, they realize that's not true. It comes from one place and one place only, the federal government. as they print money. Now, it's true you can do fractional reserve lending from banks, and they're also at fault as well. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if you're saving for your future by stacking dollars, that's not going to get you anywhere. And things like this, where Scott Bessent says Bitcoin's becoming a store of value, that's the big picture, but they won't talk about that. It's just how it is. So I'm hoping that we see some more buyers come in. Hey, hoofty. Everybody likes hoofty. I think everybody just likes to say the word hoofty. We've got hoofty. Hello, everybody. Yeah. When the stock market's a cold, Bitcoin gets a flu, and alts get Ebola. Yeah, just not today. But Sundays are historically not great days. So we'll see what happens. I'll have to find you on X. Yeah, it's pretty simple. There's actually a link in the description. Nikki says, what do you think of the coming death cross? It seems like I watched Ben and Tom Crown had a good video on this, and it seems like every time we have like a golden cross, it's like it just pumps a little bit and then it goes down. It's like a big slosh. But then a death cross comes and it goes down and it goes right back. It's just like, I think people put a lot of time and effort into that. All I know is that my dollar cost averaging payments come out from Coinbase, and they come out at the same day or the same time every day. So hopefully Bitcoin crashes at the point and I can get I can pick up something cheap, but I buy every single day. Does Bobby handle the X account? Bobby can't even handle not gambling. So I don't know if everybody knows, I have a friend named Bobby, and he gambles in the most ridiculous stuff. And it's like fart coin and just stupid. I mean, Trump coin, Melania coin, he'll buy anything. He'll buy anything. Thankfully, he's listened to my advice, which was very simple, which was, Bobby, if you're going to invest in stupid stuff like that, that's cool because you know it's gambling. You're not that dumb. But when it doubles, you have to take half out and let the other half ride. And when that doubles, then you take your profits. And if it doubles or triples or quadruples or goes 5 or 10x, whatever you want to do, then you take it again and you have more profits. Just, you can't think that it's going to be generational gains and just keep holding on forever. There's a video about that. It's called the half and half method, and it's under my crypto critical videos. It's in the links. It's in the description of every one of my videos. Just watch that if you know what I'm talking about. And he actually listens to that part. That's the only part he listens to. The other part about risk versus reward, he's like, shut up. I don't want to hear your stuff. Yeah. Jonas, how long have you been in Puerto Rico? Any sketchy storm hurricane experiences? There was a night when the entire electricity went out on the entire island. That was fun. But that's like Tuesday. No, I'm just kidding. That's this happened around the Christmas time. And yeah, it was kind of weird. Like you see it on Google Maps, right? You see the Dominican Republic all lit up, and you see like blackness everywhere. And you see the Virgin Islands. What happened to Puerto Rico? All the electricity went out because there's a company that's trying to do different things called Luma, and they can't keep it, and just yeah, that's it. So the thing you have to know is that if you're going to move here, make sure you get a generator, big one, and then also invest in the solar panels. That's it. Ooh, wife has a conference in Puerto Rico next February. Tagging along, can't wait to check it out. It's a great place. It's a great place, great people. Food's pretty good. I know I said food sucked before, but I found some better places to eat. It's much better. Bottom soon? I don't know. Like people were thinking that, you know, yesterday was the bottom or 2 days ago was the bottom because of what happened. But bottoms, they have a funny way of rearing their ugly heads and coming in when you least expect them. So we'll see. Watch Jim Cramer. He's a pretty good, actually, I'm sorry, Inverse Cramer. That's a pretty good one. Don't listen to Jim Cramer. Yeah. JH says, man, I'm excited about the Circle IPO. Stable coins are profitable. Stable coins are profitable. And actually, it was pretty interesting. Remember what we talked about as far as like the administration? And I was just surprised at, you know, what kind of head or tailwinds that the current administration is doing for us as far as with digital assets. It's not just the administration itself. It's actually the SEC. This was a post that was put out by Paul Grewal. He's the chief legal officer over at Coinbase. And this was a statement from the SEC and they state that the stable coins are not a security. And that's a vast U-turn from what the former administration, which was held by Gary Gensler, as he said that stable coins were a security. And now they come out and said, no, actually, they are not a security. And that is good news for stablecoins. And of course, people say, why do you keep talking about stablecoins? It doesn't matter. I can't get rich off that. I can't even do a half and half method. Well, I get it. But again, remember, let's just take a look at USDC and just see like what chains does the stablecoin USDC run on. It runs on Ethereum, so that's something. And it also runs on Unichain, ZK Sync, Optimism, Polkadot, Tron, Near, Hedera, Aptos, Algorand, Stellar, Celo, Sui, Avalanche, Arbitrum, Polygon, Base, and Solana. So if you're wondering like, why does he keep talking about it? It's because stable coins are going to be Finance 2.0. If you don't believe me, I keep showing this from ARK Investments. This is transaction volume between Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and stable coins. And as of 2024, see this light blue right here? That's all stable coins dwarfing Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. So who do you think is going to win this war with payments? I got to tell you, I personally don't like using Visa and MasterCard because actually it's not a pain. I should take that back. It's not the issue. I'll tell you who doesn't like to use those. That would be a lot of the vendors that you pay with because they have to pay the fees. And that's why Visa makes so much money, and MasterCard and American Express. I think if people could just accept stable coins, like let's say like if they actually got into like very simple, just QR codes and using a stable coin from an app, you know, like PayPal or Venmo, stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have those in your countries, but you just scan something, you pick up a stable coin, USDC or Tether, and you transfer it using over like, I don't know, Solana rails, or Algorand rails, or whatever rails you can think of. I guarantee it's a lot less expensive than say Visa, MasterCard. And I got to tell you, that would be very good for businesses, small businesses, medium, and large, because they don't have to pay all those transaction fees. It sucks for Visa, MasterCard, but that's why they invested into Ethereum. Anyhow, Rob, did you miss the top again? Look, I think we all know that I have these rules underneath me. Let me just pull this up. This last one right here, this take profits. I mean, I harp on that. And I got, you get people who are like, why do you talk about that? Don't talk about it. This is going to keep going up. If you look through my Twitter account and actually videos here, you'll see that I've done what I said I've done. And the reason why is because different opportunities came up and I had to sell crypto. Did I sell everything at the right time? Obviously not, but there's a reason why I'm pretty relaxed. It's just because there's the same thing happening over and over again. So I didn't sell everything like, like some people say, did you miss the top? I don't think that was the top, quite honestly. But I did take some profits and to get into some other positions and I needed to. And yeah. Let's see. Rob, how do you use stables now? Don't people have to be in exchange? See, that's just it. And Tim's got a good question. They don't. People don't use stable coins because it's like, first of all, like out of all your friends that are into crypto, how many are like Tether whales? Very few. How many people even use Tether or USDC? Very, very, very few. So for a company to say, hey, we accept stable coins, first they're like, is it even worth it? And second of all, are the people going to know what it is? And I think the only way this happens is if, first of all, remittance payments, sending payments back to whatever country that you're from, people start using more stable coins and so on and so forth. And then it kind of finds its way into the merchants. I think that's the way. But right now, nobody uses it. I've seen one place here in Puerto Rico and they used to take Bitcoin, and that was the San Juan Smokehouse. And I think they actually did take stable coins, but then they just did away with that and just did Bitcoin. So right now, there's nobody. But I got to tell you, if I was a small business like a restaurant, say, and I'd say, hey, if you want to pay in stable coins, or you want to pay in Solana or whatever you want, I'll give you an X percentage discount on the food, because food doesn't cost me as much as, say, like the 5% or the 2.5% or 3.99% that Visa and MasterCard are going to charge for the total bill. So I would give that to the people and say, hey, do that, give you a discount, everybody's happy. And I'd probably collect like 1% of the people that come in there. So to answer your question, Tim, I don't use it. I wish I could, though, because I have the ability, but no one's asking. That's the problem. Sith. I'm loving the sell right now because I'm in the long term. Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat. Darren says diversify and chill. That's a good one. Thoughts on ETH? ETH isn't everything, but boy, it's really lagging. So we'll see. I know everybody talks about, well, institutions, they're into it because it's battle tested. And let's see. Whatever they're doing, they sure aren't using a lot of it, because if they were using a lot of it, then they need to buy a lot of it for the fees, but obviously they're not, because the price is pretty depressed. How about the utility of XRP? Probably do great. And it seems like every single time I turn around, they're like, we got this partner and that partner and this partner. Yet, the only reason that the price pumped up so much last time was they won the lawsuit against the SEC. It wasn't because they had, massive deals with banks, and people could say, well, that's not true, because they had those, they've been having those for years. Well, yeah, that's why the price didn't do anything. The day that they beat the SEC, take a look at the price pump there, 2 weeks, 4 weeks out. Let's see. Black Monday coming? I have no idea. I'd like it to be. It'd be great, because inevitably I think I know where we're going, and it's not to zero like Dan Pena thinks it's going to be. Crypto shopping on Monday, says Rebecca. Retail therapy is a mindset. No tariffs on crypto yet. If ETH goes to the moon, a lot of people will have regrets. Probably so. And their Hofti says, I'm only buying Bitcoin and ETH. Yeah, meme is here, and that's it. Yeah, Ian's got a good point. The May 2020 price on ETH, 5 years, same price. Is that true? Today's the price is 1784, right? Well, I think we look at 4 years. That's true, because 2020, 2021, 22, 3, 4, 5. Now it's actually like a 10x, right? 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's true. But I think in 4 years, yeah, you're right. 4 years, 2021 to 22, 3, 4, 5. So 4 years ago, damn, same price. It's brutal. Brutal, brutal. Let me get this out of here. I am out of cash. That's a lot of people. Huh? Big Earn. Hey, Dan, thanks for all the info and furnishing me the bore master of Bitcoin dominance, Benjamin Cowan. Yeah. I got to tell you, Ben's been right so far. So that is good. Does that make ETH the next XRP? Well, no. Because XRP, their price was suppressed by the shadow of the SEC. Ethereum's price is just fill in the blank. Let me know what you think it is, because I can't figure it. I'll leave it with this. Meme says, I'm kind of in shock looking at portfolio. You need to wake up and get a plan. Sometimes the plan is there is no plan. And the plan is just to continue on with just time. Remember, it's not a loss until you sell, but maybe some of the cryptos that you guys have on there are just going to continue to underperform. And that's for you to decide. Today, we're just talking mostly about Bitcoin. Tomorrow, we'll probably talk more about altcoins on Sunday, but that's it for today. So look, everybody, if you liked today's video, thumbs up, subscribe. That'll be it for today. So thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Adios.